Hi everyone! Today I'm going to talk about 5 books that made me cry. When I talk about crying, I'm not just talking about feeling a lump in your throat or that you feel very touched by the story. I'm talking about actual crying, where physical tears have been shed. So I'll be talking about these 5 books in the order that I read them. So the first book is also the book that made me cry the most, and that is Half Brother by Kenneth Oppel. I read that book in 8th grade, and it's about a boy named Ben, and his father is a scientist who wanted to find out if animals will be able to learn languages just like humans do. So they adopted a baby chimpanzee and raised that chimp like a human and tried to teach him sign language. So that is the basic gist of the story. I think this book explores a lot about family and humanity, like what it means to be human, what it means to be a person. So that the chimpanzee's name is Zan, as in Tarzan, and if we raise Zan as a human, does that make him a human or not? To Ben, Zan is just like family. He's just like a brother to him. But to Ben's father, Zan is more like an object to be experimented on. Like if the experiment fails, he's just going to send Zan away. In this book, Ben is actually just a middle schooler, just like I was when I read the book. So seeing how much he has to go through as a middle schooler was really emotional to read about. So first of all, from being the only child in the family, and then suddenly he has to accept the fact that he has a younger brother now, who is actually not a brother but a chimp, and then slowly getting attached to this younger brother, but then he is again forced to set aside his feelings for Zan because the experiment wasn't going that well, and there's a possibility that Zan might be sent away. And all of this feeling of love and loss and love and loss again was just very emotional. I remember rereading it a few years later, and I still cried multiple times. The next book that made me cry is Burn My Heart by Beverley Naidoo. I also read this book in 8th grade, and this book is a historical fiction set in Kenya about the Mau Mau revolution back in the 1950s. So I really recommend this book because I didn't know about the Mau Mau revolution before reading this book, and I think you will really learn a lot about African history and the history of colonialism. And this book is basically about this revolution, and you see this revolution through the eyes of 2 young boys. So the first boy is called Matthew. He is the son of a British landowner, I think, and his best friend Mugo, who is a Kenyan, and his whole family, this Kenyan family, works on the British farm. Although Matthew and Mugo are from different races, they are very good friends. But because of this revolution, their friendship slowly becomes strained. And as I see their friendship sort of breaking apart because of all the hatred and violence around them, it's very heartbreaking to see how their innocence has sort of been taken away forcefully. So book number 3 that made me cry is The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. And surprisingly, I also read this book in 8th grade. So 3 out of 5 books that made me cry, I read in 8th grade. So maybe I'm just a very emotional teenager back then. But anyways, this book is about a group of gangster boys known as the Greasers. And these boys all come from sort of a lower economic and social background. They either come from dysfunctional families or maybe they have lost their parents. But anyway, these boys, these Greasers, just sort of stick together and look out for each other. And they always get in conflict with this upper class rival gang known as the Socias. So this book is basically about these group of boys and what happened to them. This book is actually written by a female author, but I feel like she can write teenage boys better than a lot of male authors. They're just, the way they act and talk is just so real and fleshed out. But be warned that there's like quite a lot of swear words and rough language in this book, but I guess that's just the way they talk, so it's very reasonable and realistic. There's also a movie adaptation of this book. Fun fact, Tom Cruise is in it. But in this book, the main character is called Ponyboy, which is a cute name in my opinion, and he has this older brother called Derry. He's the eldest, he's also the eldest in the gang among the greasers, and he's sort of like the big brother in the group. And he's always quite cold and strict towards Ponyboy, which is understandable, I guess, because they have just lost their parents recently, so Derry sort of took on the role of a parent, and he's almost like a father figure to Ponyboy. But there was this scene where Derry full on cried because he thought he was going to lose Ponyboy and that Ponyboy was in danger. I don't know, just seeing this always so calm and strong-willed big brother Derry just lose it and cry because he thought his brother was in danger just killed me. The next book is Chinese Cinderella by Adeline Yanma. So this book I read in 9th grade, and it is actually a non-fiction, so it is the author's autobiography. And just like the title of this book, the author is sort of like Cinderella. She lost her mother when she was really young, and her father remarried. But the stepmother is just very cruel to her, I think, and I don't think the stepmother loved her at all, so she was just treated very poorly, and even her siblings were mean to her. They were often jealous of her achievements in school because she had really good grades, and they just treated her very badly. So I think the thing that really got me was the fact that this is a true story. Like, I really couldn't wrap my head around the fact that a family can be so cruel to you and how lonely it must have felt growing up in this family. I think this is quite a difficult book to get through, and you really do get quite emotional while reading. Last but not least is The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas. I read this in 11th grade, and this is a YA fantasy and also a prequel to the Throne of Glass series. So this book is basically about the main character, Selena Sardothian, who is an assassin, and her adventures as an assassin. So I was actually quite surprised that this book is on the list, because I don't think this book is a very emotional book. It's more like adventure and action based. But there was this particular scene that really made me cry. And I don't want to spoil anything, but just a hint, it's about a female friendship and a betrayal. So when Selena was betrayed by this certain friend, she asked her, was it ever real? And I think that sentence really broke my heart and really made me cry, because at that moment Selena was just so confused because they were so close and they were such good friends, but Selena was sort of asking, like, how come you betrayed me? And I really remember I was on the school bus when I read this scene, and when I read the line, was it ever real? I felt a tear roll down my cheek. Let's do a rundown of what would make Marianne cry in a book. So number 1, broken or strained relationships. Number 2, family dynamics, or more specifically, the love and hate and cruelty within a family. And number 3, bromance. So if you put all 3 aspects into a book, I really don't know what will happen, but what I know is that I must stock up on a lot of tissue paper because there will be a lot of tears. So anyway, these are the 5 books that really made me cry my eyeballs out, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you next time. Bye!